Hi, I'm Naomi with Sword and Steel, and today I'm going to build a king tiger for bolt action. Alright. Morella packed it again. Oh, look at that. Look at the nice transfers. Cool. Thank you, Morella. And alright, so obviously he's only available to be played in late war. He is a regular 555 points, veteran 666. Cute that he's 666. The Tiger 2, also called King Tiger, was a development of the famous Tiger tank. It only entered service in 1944, too late to have an adequate impact on the war. It was feared and respected by allies whose tanks could easily be destroyed by the King Tiger's high-velocity 88mm gun. He's, of course, got Tiger Fear, tracked, no support, DV 11+, super heavy tank, range 84 inches, medium machine gun is 36 inches, 1 shot versus 6 shots for his machine gun, penetration is +6, no pen for the machine gun, and the machine gun is 1 coaxial, 1 hull mounted, and its HE is 3 inches. You know you want to play them. Their little pamphlet on their various games, and assembly and painting guide, as well as the excerpt of King Tiger. You can have a King Tiger with the Porsche turret, but I'm going to choose the Henkel turret instead. King Tiger with the Henkel turret. The Porsche turrets were the early ones, and the Henkel turrets were the later ones, and that's what I'm going to go with. Cool. And their usual 3 damage counters. It's nice that they have that for every single tank. Let's get her built. It's definitely best to just follow the assembly guide. The assembly guide seemed to be quite accurate, so go ahead and follow the assembly guide. When there's a bunch of similar pieces, rather than think about where they go, I like just putting them on their picture. For anyone new to modeling, cutting off your pieces with something like this, and you see that it has a nice thin top to it. That is a much better way of cutting off your pieces than, say, using a knife to get them off. Your model and your fingers will thank you. The excerpt by Warlord Games says, "The Königstiger, officially named the Panzerkampfwagen Tiger Aus B, or SDKFZ 182, more commonly known as the King Tiger or Royal Tiger by Allied troops, was a development of the fearsome Tiger I tank. Its introduction to hostilities in 1944 caused significant problems for the Allies, but ultimately it saw action too late to have a game-changing impact on the war. Deployed on both the western and eastern fronts, the King Tiger's long 88mm gun had enormous operational accuracy, with the ability to knock out any Allied tank frontally at ranges exceeding 2.5 kilometers, way beyond the effective range of any Allied tank gun at the time. 2 turret designs were produced, with Porsche and Henkel competing for that contract. As the first Henkel chassis rolled off the production line, only the turret originally destined for the rejected Porsche project were available. 50 Porsche turrets were mounted to Henkel's hull and used in action until the Henkel turret variant became available. The first combat use of the King Tiger was during the battles in Normandy by the 503rd Heavy Panzer Battalion, opposing Operation Atlantic between Troarn and Dumeville on the 18th of July 1944. On the Eastern Front, its combat debut came on the 12th of August 1944 by the 501st Heavy Panzer Battalion, resisting the Lvov-Sandomir's offensive, where it attacked the Soviet bridgehead over the Vistula River near Baranov-Sandomirsky. 492 were produced, It had a crew of 5 men. Its top speed was 25.8 miles per hour or 41.5 kilometers per hour, and its range was 110 miles or 170 kilometers. It of course had the 88mm KWK-43L71 gun, and its armor was between 25 to 185 millimeters thick. It says with Porsche turret the weight is 68.5 tons, and with the Henkel turret it's 69.8 ton tank. Alright, so we have 2 pieces that only have a space for one of them. Now, which one is which? It doesn't say. So I've seen this flat piece much more. Actually, I've never seen a tank with this larger piece on it. And since they don't say, I have no way of knowing which would be more appropriate at the moment. So I'm probably going to go with the flat piece since that's what I've seen, but I think I'll just wait and do a little bit more research, see what I can find out about these 2 pieces. If anyone knows, let me know in the comments below. Not only was it really late to come into the war, well, as you remember, a 69.8 ton tank, so it was too heavy for a lot of bridges, and holding bridges in the war was crucial. If the Tiger was too heavy to hold a bridge or could not cross the bridge, that really limited where it could be used. Nevertheless, this was the most powerful German tank in the war, and had the war continued, who knows what it would have done for the Axis. This kit is actually quite straightforward to put together. They've got little notches so that you know where each piece goes. Now, there was an instance about here where I had to carve out the holes to fit the notches into place. Yes, these side armor pieces, I had to carve out the notches to fit them in place. But it was very straightforward to do with a hobby knife, and because it's invisible, you can, go to town with carving it out. And the plastic is so thin that it carves out very easily. And for the majority, every single piece fit well. I mean, I never have too much fun adding the teeny weeny little pieces, but they all have their spot and you don't have to question where they are, with the exception of the aforementioned 2 pieces to the 1 spot that I showed you a moment ago. Besides that though, everything fits nicely. The guide itself is easy to follow. It mentions optional pieces, like I did not put on shirts on these pieces. I could have put on them, but they normally fall off during the war, and this is going to be a really late war tank, so I'm content to leave the shirts off. Another problem it had in the war was that it would guzzle fuel, and fuel was already scarce. It certainly wasn't reliable, though very few were actually knocked out of combat, and to date, I don't believe there was ever one hit front on, penetrated front on. However, either lack of fuel or engine problems, most that were left behind were just abandoned. The Allies would actually attack their supply line so that these enormous tanks couldn't be viable in combat. So I haven't been able to do as much bolt action as I hoped on the channel. I'm hoping to increase that, starting with the painting of this very King Tiger tank, and likely I'll also be doing a how to play and some battle reports in the future. That is my plan anyway. Now the gun itself, not the turret, but the gun has 2 pieces, and they connect together with a lock and key kind of fit, and my 2 pieces were really tight to fit together, but they didn't fit together all the way. It was like 75% together, and then it just got stuck, so I had to carve down the gun to fit it to its 2 pieces, and I even had to use my cutters to knock it into place. It was so tight, and I had to carve out one part just to fit it in, so you may have issue fitting the 2 pieces of the gun together, but since you're going to be gluing them together, I don't see that being too much of a problem. These pieces here, you probably do not want to glue them into place so that you have mobility of your turret. You want it to be able to move up and down. At least I wanted to move it up and down. So the only place you'll want to put glue is along this line here. There we go. And along that line there, making certain that it doesn't touch any of the other pieces while it's being glued in place, so that you have just this cute little ability to move your gun up and down. Since I'm also a Warhammer player and have built multiple tanks now that are considerably larger than this, nevertheless I still have a great fondness for the King Tiger tank. Now, that isn't to say I would want to see him in the war, as I never would, but I can appreciate the genius behind its manufacturing. I am not as familiar with modern day tanks as I am World War II tanks. Do let me know if you know. What modern day tank, if there is one, would outperform a King Tiger, and how would it do so? I'd love to know. Now, this is one part that I found both turrets had trouble fitting. See where I'm cutting out right now? That, unfortunately, I didn't quite do it on camera. I'm sorry about that. But when you're connecting the turret to the chassis, you may have a little bit of issue. You know it's okay when you can turn the turret with ease, but I found that there were a little bit of that I had to cut off to be able to put that turret on and move it about with ease. And that was for when I made both the Henkel turret and the Porsche turret. And then when you've got it fixed, it'll move around nice and easy like that. I may add some friction within the gun so that it doesn't fall when I position it, but for now I'm content. So here we have the Henkel turret and the Porsche turret. Though there are individual pieces for most of the turrets, there's only one port for the commander, and there's only one guard to hold the commander's gun if you were to attach it. Also, this little piece here, there's only one for that. So you could mostly make it, particularly if you added the commander like I did in the Porsche part, you could mostly make two, but they wouldn't necessarily be fully historically accurate. And there's only one T-shaped piece that holds the gun in place. You can build it out of sprues, which is what I did for the Porsche turret, but missing those other top pieces, I can't say that you can truly build both turrets. So there he is, a Henkel chassis and Henkel turret. I think they did a really good job in replicating this. There are so many tiny little details. I mean, it was not fun to add some of these tiny little details, but you know you love it when it's all done. Look how great that looks. I can't wait to paint him up. I'm going to be airbrushing him, as I said, likely with Vallejo airbrush paints in a 3-color camo. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye! When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always build a tank.